Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Cake Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with that spiritual side of our existence. You're familiar with the physical and the mental and the emotional, but we have been discussing the spiritual, whatever that is. My name is Clint Hufton. With me is Wendy Dahl. Wendy?
Hi, Clint.
Hello, Wendy. If you're joining us for the first time, you should know that neither Wendy nor I run any kind of a religious organization, nor has our formal education been along those lines. We were both raised relatively conservative Christian. Wendy is Mormon. I was raised Lutheran, but have since explored a lot of different philosophies and theologies. Plus, we are both in the event industry with an international clientele, and that has exposed us to a lot of different customs and traditions and rituals. And we bring all of that into this conversation. And that's exactly what it is. It's a conversation. And if you want to join the conversation, then at the end of this episode, we will tell you how to do that. Wendy, I just want to say thank you on the record for being our special guest at the Wedding Ceremony podcast with me and JP. And those of you that are curious, it's in YouTube and all the regular podcast places. But you said something because you described, when I say we're in the event industry, it's mostly weddings, and you do South Asian weddings. You want to just kind of give a brief description of what that is?
Sure. So, a South Asian wedding is typically Hindu or Sikh. We also do Middle Eastern weddings, which are Muslim. Kind of got into it backwards because my last name is Dal, and there's a food in, or a spice actually, that's Dal. I was working with another wedding planner before I started my business who is dabbling in doing South Asian weddings, and I was so intrigued. It was so unique in comparison to all what we call the white dress weddings, which is like all the Christian and typical US wedding. So I was describing mostly a Hindu ceremony because those seem to be the ones that we get the most frequently, talking about both the similarities and the differences of the ceremony and how what's common mostly is that in all of the non-white dress weddings, their families expand. Like instead of getting married and leaving your family, you're like staying in the family and the family is growing. So it's like you marry into a family, that family's your family, and they become family. So it's like the family just gets bigger. But I was describing like the setup inside of one of the mandaps that we work with. I talked about the holy book from the Sikh wedding, where when the holy book enters the ceremony area, it becomes like a temple and it's a holy place. You know, everyone covers their heads and they're very reverent. They often sit on the floor. So I just was kind of reviewing how there's a lot of differences in them, but also similarities. Like the huppah is also the same size as a mandap. It also has four legs and a covering, you know, and so you're looking at some of the same things like I could explain to a person that's Jewish, a Hindu ceremony, and they totally get it, and vice versa. So, one of the other things I talked about was how we do a lot of fusion weddings. And in those ceremonies, you know, the Hindu priests, and I was telling him about one priest in particular who we love. He is a Caucasian man who went and lived in India and studied the Hindu faith for like 18 years or something like that. Moved back here and he does Hindu ceremonies. And so we had an opportunity where it was a fusion wedding where it was Christian on one side and Hindu on the other side. And we asked him to do the Christian ceremony or just a non-denominational ceremony. And he was like, I wouldn't know the first thing about that. So we had to bring in somebody to do that portion of it. But yeah, so it's just interesting to talk about the diversity of belief systems and the cool and fun things that happen during those ceremonies and why we like them so much.
One of the things that you said that really caught me was there are auspicious days in the
Mm.
calendar. Now, in the wedding business, there are certain days that just kind of jump out at you. It was 2006. So if you had 2006 in June on the 6th, then it would be 666, you know, that sort of thing. But
Hmm.
you said auspicious, and that I've never heard that word applied in this context. So I went to the third member of our podcast, which is ChatGPT. I said, "What are auspicious days?" And you know what's funny is that I said ostentious, and they said, "I think you mean auspicious." And thank you,
Oh,
ChatGPT.
hey.
Yeah, yeah. Realized that some of us are a little dopey and fixed me right up. Right to Hinduism, which is what you were talking about. What are the auspicious days? Now, you probably already know this, but I had to look it up because I thought, oh, you know what really caught my eye is because you said that there are certain days that you know everyone's going to want.
Yep.
Yeah, which is similar to what I went through with 10, 10, 0, 10, or whatever it is. On the Hindu calendar, you can kind of, I guess, look ahead and say, okay, we know we're going to get a lot of inquiries for this date. Is it true like that? Is that kind of how your business works?
Yes, or we just do it backwards where we haven't researched what the auspicious days are, and then all of a sudden we have an influx of calls for one day in particular.
Right. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, the market reveals itself to you. So,
it does.
Hinduism, this is interesting. So, these are auspicious days that are extremely important. If you're familiar with all of these, then just let me know. If there's something that's brand new, then speak up. But Akshaya Tritia, do you have any idea how to pronounce that?
No.
Great. Then Maha Shivaratri, the Diwali is the festival of lights and prosperity. Now, I've heard of that. Is that the one where they do a lot of colored powders and they run through and do all that kind of stuff?
Diwali, it's the festival of lights, and so yeah, I mean they could do that.
There's a specific holiday where they celebrate by throwing colored powder on each other. And it's really fun to look at. I knew somebody that actually went there specifically for that holiday. I don't know if it's Diwali, but that sounds really familiar. And then the Akshaya Tritia, believed to bring lasting success and good fortune. I would think that would be really important in the wedding industry. And then Maha Shivaratri is sacred to Shiva. They're determined by the lunar calendar, the positions of the planet and the stars, astrology, specific lunar phases, and sometimes the exact hour matters, not just the day. Oh, you spoke to that. You
I
said that.
did.
Yeah. So tell me about that, the exact hour.
Usually the auspicious time is in the morning, sometimes between like 10 and 11, sometimes 11:30. So the priest is the one that tells you what the auspicious day and time are. We've had different couples like they do this thing where they tie a necklace on the bride called the Mangal Sutra. Sometimes that particular act needs to be done at a specific time. They are very much into like numerology, auspicious timing,
I
and
wonder if the
yeah.
timing has to do with India. Like if it's in the morning, because in India, it's not in the morning. Mecca is really important. It's like a hub of their religion. Everything is kind of based on what I'm assuming is you turn and face Mecca when you do your prayers. So I didn't know if in the Hindu traditions, if the location, it may be 10 a.m. here, but we're doing it at 10 a.m. here because in India, this is when the actual time is really special or something like that because of the time difference. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Do you think that's true?
could be. I don't, it's funny, like I don't ask. I just sort of like, okay, that's what we're
Yeah,
doing.
that's what you want. That's okie dokie with me. I said, what calendar days in 2026 are auspicious in Hindu? And in Hinduism, auspicious days can vary by region, tradition, deity, astrology, personal purpose, like marriage, travel, business, launch,
Mhm.
fasting, spiritual practice. That's cool. I like the way they divide it up. But some days are widely considered especially favorable across much of Hindu culture. So this year, and you tell me if you had booking on any of these dates. So February 15th was Maha Shivaratri, the sacred night devoted to Shiva, meditation, fasting, transformation. Anything in February?
Of 26?
Yeah, this year.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. So that was, I guess, more towards
Well,
the
and I think
deity.
that also because we're in the Western culture, they look at that weekend and go, flowers are going to be very expensive that weekend because of Valentine's Day.
Oh, look
Yeah,
at
so
you.
they do that cross section of like common sense and auspicious things.
Oh, I like that. See, only an event planner would understand all of that. So then March 19th through the 27th is Chaitra Navratri, and it's a 9-day festival honoring goddess Durga and spiritual renewal. Let me know if you did a wedding on any of these
We
dates.
did the 20th and 21st.
Do you think it was because it was during that festival or during that particular
I
time?
don't, I didn't pick up on anything that was significant. I mean, it could have been because they're talking in a language I don't understand, but in all of our planning sessions, that never came up.
And then apparently at the very end of that festival on the 27th is Rama Navami, which celebrates the birth of Lord Rama. April 19th, Akshaya Tritia, one of the most universally auspicious Hindu days associated with prosperity, new beginnings. That's almost like a lock. It seems like a guarantee that you would have a wedding on that day.
We
Well,
had
maybe.
one the first weekend of April that was very significant to that couple. She was from South India. She was talking about Garba. Like, we didn't do a reception, we did it Garba. It's the coolest thing. It's like they do dancing in a big circle, and like everybody does it, and it's rhythmic, and it's just hours they do it. And it's like, I could
Really?
sit there. Yeah, I could watch it all night. It's really
Wow.
cool.
Okay, so I did a party when I was working for an event company that did entertainment like DJs and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I was the MC, and then the DJ was this guy that was really, really good. He went on to do scores for
Hmm.
movies, so he really understood music and all that kind of stuff. And so it was the wedding anniversary of a couple, a Hindu couple. They were both doctors. We did it in Southern California. Their son was in Philadelphia and sent the DJ a bunch of Indian music. He played some of it, and then he realized kind of like the structure of it and was able to incorporate it with American dance music because it all had that beat. And it was
Yep.
really cool because once they get
Yep.
into it, most of the people from India have dark hair. And I would look out over the dance floor and I would see there was a couple hundred people there, just the heads going up and down as they were all just dancing. And I connect with that dancing or movement is part of that joy thing. The Sufis have this thing where they'll dance around. You probably have seen of the whirling dervishes where they dance and go in circles and use I guess, the dizziness to heighten their spiritual experience. Have you ever heard of that?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think maybe that dancing thing is kind of universal in humanity and that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, on July 29th, there's Guru Purnima, honors spiritual teachers and wisdom traditions. That's cool. And then August 28th, Raksha Bandhan, celebration of family bonds and protection. That seems like a wedding thingy. September and October, for those 2 months, is Navatri, a divine feminine energy and victory over negativity. This is really cool. Then October 20th, the Dussehra vision, I'm sorry, symbolizes victory of good over evil. And on November, I would think that that's kind of like a thing with weddings, multicultural, because I think there are some things that are part of the Western traditions, like superstitions. I think one of the things about carrying the bride across the threshold is to protect her. There's other things that are done to drive out evil spirits or protect the environment or the couple or protect the future. I think that's kind of like a common thing across most traditions or cultures. So then on November 8th, the Diwali, there we go. We've come all the way back around. So the Festival of Lights, Prosperity, Lakshmi, and
Hmm.
spiritual illumination. Any of those dates jump out at you for weddings?
I mean, we tend to have similar to these dates, like March and April were heavy with weddings, a lot in August, September, October, November. So it was interesting. I was researching 2027 dates and it was talking about the dates that they wouldn't choose and why. And so, hang
Oh,
on, I'll tell you what I was researching because it's funny how our thoughts align. Because I was asked, I was like in the tell me more mode. It's called Chaturmas. It's a sacred 4 month period in Hindu tradition where many families traditionally avoid weddings, large celebrations, and certain major life events. The word comes from Sanskrit, Chatur meaning four, and mas is months. What happens during these 4 months? It begins when Devshiani Ikadashi occurs at the end of the
that's okay.
Prabodhani
That's all right. No one's expecting us to
Ikadashi.
be really good at this. So,
Okay, so here's
but
what it says.
but
It
what I'm
says,
stuck
Lord,
on is the 4 month. It's like a four
yes,
month
four
period.
months. And it says, spiritually, it is believed that Lord Vishnu enters a cosmic resting period. The energy of the season shifts inward toward prayer, fasting, reflection, discipline, pilgrimage, and spiritual growth. Because of this, many Hindu traditions consider it less favorable for weddings, engagements, housewarmings, major celebrations, and starting new ventures. In 2027, it is from July 13th until November 9th.
Holy moly!
Yes. And what's interesting is that we see less weddings in the summer month. Well, in the summer months, probably because it's just so warm and they want to be comfortable because they're outside for a long time and their weddings are longer. I didn't know anything about that.
Well, looking
But
back, like if you were to think back over the last maybe 5 years or something, that
yeah.
not taking into consideration the pandemic, but just the
Hmm.
last, that did it seem like there was big chunks of blank on your calendar because and you weren't really sure why?
No. And I feel like it's because we do a variety of things where it's
Oh,
not
that's
just the
true.
Hindu weddings.
Yeah, that's true.
But I could say if I were to track Hindu weddings, there's usually a gap, and it's not always that same time. But
Probably their calendar is similar. Like if it's based on the lunar calendar, I think
hmm.
the Jewish calendar is based on the lunar calendar. And so it's different than our whatever we call our calendar. Let's go back now because I asked not just about Hinduism, but any religion. And it turns out there are auspicious days in Buddhism as well. Buddhism recognizes spiritually important days tied to the life of Buddha and lunar cycles. Vesak celebrates Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and death. full moon meditation days, monastic observance days. Those days are believed to be the ideal times for meditation, compassion, merit making. In Judaism, the holy days are tied to scripture, which makes sense. Harvest cycles, covenant traditions, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. So it's 8 days after the New Year, which is Rosh Hashanah. Very deep reflection and that kind of stuff on Yom Kippur. Very cool. Then in Christianity, the obvious ones to anybody that lives in America is Easter, Christmas, Good Friday, Pentecost. We talked about this in the book of Acts, where the disciples, and Jesus said, you're going to get the Holy Spirit. And Pentecost is that moment where those disciples got the gifts of the Spirit. Were you aware of that?
No.
Yeah, it's a thing. The gifts of the Spirit, speaking in tongues and whatever else comes with that. The Pentecostal churches in the Christian community are the ones that really are all in on the gifts of the Spirit. And that's why they're called Pentecostal, because of that thing. Islam, strictly lunar calendar. Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and Laylat al-Qadr, Night of Power. Moon sightings, Islamic lunar calendar. You know, I've heard of people that plan their pregnancy, you know, assuming that it's going to be approximately 9 months so that the baby is born in an auspicious time. Now, I didn't go through that process with my wife and our kids. They just kind of showed up. But
That's cute.
I don't know. There's something about acknowledging a certain day. And I don't know if this is manufactured, we want it to be special, or if there is an actual vibe that we feel, we acknowledge it and make it significant to somehow we anchor it. I like the concept. I really like the concept that there are certain days, times, places that seem to lift us a little bit in regards to spirituality. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
We've talked about how you walk into a place of worship and you feel different. Now, that could be just because if you walk into a subway station, you're going to feel different because there's a whole lot of people and they're not really, you know. But if you walk into a place of worship, we talk about that vibe that seems to permeate the room. That seems to me because of the people that bring that vibe to the room, and it kind of like emanates through that entire space. That's my interpretation of why it feels so different when we walk into a place of worship. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Even if there's nobody in the room, it's just different.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea. That'd be interesting. I wonder if it can be more personal. I wonder if there's a way to figure out the personal auspicious days for each person that they could acknowledge outside of the obvious one, which is a birthday. That would be interesting. If there's any kind of a formula that allows people to figure out the auspicious days for them. In fact, don't couples that you've worked with, primarily in the Hindu traditions, they go to an expert and say, when should we get married? Something like that.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
has to do with them, right?
It does. It has to do with them. What's interesting is you were talking about your own map and your birthday, and that was exactly what I had asked ChatGPT after I was asking it about the other auspicious days. I said, "What is the significance?" And I put in my birthday. I put in my birthday of this year and next year just to see what it was. And it was very similar, where it says, you know, my birthday is actually a day dedicated to Ganesha, removing obstacles, blessings for prosperity and wisdom. And then it says people often begin to pray for success, begin spiritual practices, ask for protection over new endeavors, seek clarity before big decisions. Then I was in a, you know, it goes through astrological and everything else too. So then I was like, well, what about 2027? It brought up how my birthday next year is in the Chaturmas period, the sacred 4-month devotional period.
Wow.
Right?
That's really cool. I want to do that. I could do that for my whole family.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, now I have a new thing. I have a book. I think it's based on numerology. I'm not sure exactly, but it's all about what you were born to do.
Yes.
And it talks about if you take, there's a formula for your day and year and that kind of stuff. And then there's some kind of a formula where you can look up what category you're in. It's probably similar to all of those other who am I things. Myers-Briggs?
Myers-Briggs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any of those things. Anyway, it's pretty cool because it seemed to match the four of us in my family. Yeah, I still
Cool.
have that book. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Hey,
I
you know
love
what?
it.
I could do you. Maybe we'll do that in another podcast. That'll be fun.
That'd be fun.
All right, Wendy, tell everybody how they get in touch with us.
You can find us at spiritualcake.com, where you can go back and listen to any of our previous episodes. You can click one of the two social media icons and join us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send us a topic requesting, or sorry, an email requesting a topic, or even to join the conversation.
Absolutely. And when you do join the conversation, please know we welcome you with open arms. That's it for this episode of the Spiritual Cake Podcast. This is Clint on behalf of Wendy. We will see you next time.